Atulia, that was so sweet. I love you. You're very special to me. Yeah, we had good times growing up. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah? Awesome. Thank you so much for having me tonight. I'm so honored to be here. I've heard about Mantra House. For years, I actually used to come to Mantra House, I don't know, almost 10 years ago. And it was something really important in my spiritual life. I'm just so happy to see it grow and new people come. And you guys are so lucky to have these guys here in this space. And I'm really excited for tonight's topic. So it is a New Year's special, and the topic is a practical guide on how to start a spiritual practice and how to maintain it. Or if you already have one, how to make it stronger, okay? So what is a spiritual practice? In Sanskrit, we call it sadhana. And what it actually entails, there's so many things that can become part of your spiritual practice. But the two main ones that I can think of that I practice on a daily basis are mantra meditation, which is the individual chanting of this mantra that we were just doing all of us together. That's the kirtan form of it. And then when you do it individually, that's called japa, or individual mantra meditation. And the other thing that I think is so important for, to have a steady, strong spiritual life is reading of spiritual texts, the ancient yoga texts that you guys hear about here. We also have in the table outside. So chanting and reading, hearing and chanting are the main things in a spiritual practice and spiritual life. And for me, and I know this is what I've learned also from the pros that I look up to that have taught me how to do this, is that when you chant, when you do the mantra meditation practice, you're connecting directly to that with that supreme divine, with that reservoir, with that source of everything spiritual. And through that, I guess, conversation, that's how I feel. It's like you get a little bit of time out of your day and out of your life, actually, if you keep doing it for years. You get a very sweet time with the divine. And it's actually quite amazing how we all have direct access to that divine person. And it's so easy, all that's required is for us to want to do it and to connect. There's actually no other prerequisites for that. And the reading of spiritual texts, that's like growing roots and grounding down. I don't know if you guys, and Atulia just talked about this, we drove up the coast, when we were so young. And one of the things I got to see in that road trip were the big red trees. What is that called?
Sequoia trees?
Sequoia trees. They're so huge, they're massive, And I didn't know this at the time, but I came to learn this later on, that their roots are so thick and they go so deep that they connect with each other and they create this net that keep each other up through storms, through anything. And I just thought that was so powerful, and it reminded me of the spiritual community of which I'm a part and it's beautiful. And I think that's part of doing this spiritual life or spiritual practice on a daily basis, is that you're netting, you're connecting with other practitioners, and you're feeding it every day. So with that vision, let's move on to why. Why is this an important topic? Why, for example, me and other practitioners pay so much attention to this? Why do it every day? So just like anything else in our lives, I know you can think of many of you are college students, but even if you're out of college, maybe you're a little more ahead in life. Anything that we want to get good at and anything that we want to get benefit from, it requires commitment. And it also requires consistency. And it also requires care. So I call these three things the 3 C's that I like to think about. I don't know, it makes it easier for me to categorize things. I'm kind of a logical person, so I like to know how A gets to B and how it equals C and whatever. And so these 3 C's, commitment, consistency, and care, are so important for my spiritual practice because commitment, let's see, in the dictionary I looked this up. Commitment means the state of being dedicated to a cause or activity. And synonyms for that is like duty, loyalty, dedication. And I thought that was so meaningful because that's actually what this practice entails. To be committed to something means that you're going to dedicate as many resources as you can. So either time, attention, maybe you give up something in order to do something else. In this case, we're talking about our spiritual practice. And it reminded me of college. You know, we have homework and projects that are due. I mean, I got a major in international studies, and it was really interesting. But I also had to do, I guess, a minor in another language. So I picked French because I already knew Spanish. So I was like, okay, I'll just challenge myself, you know. I like that. And I went into French knowing pretty much nothing. I mean, I had taken it in high school, but it's not the same. And it required a lot of attention, a lot of commitment. I had to show up to class. I had to turn in assignments. I had to write a thesis in French, like academic level. You know, and so many of you are in college right now, you know. You have to show up even if you don't want to. You have to turn in projects, you have to turn in homework, even if it's hard for you to get up in the morning or go to sleep super late at night. But you're committed. Not only your money's into it, maybe your parents are like pushing you and you have some pressure, you know. But it's for a higher cause, you know. It's like you can't maybe party the night before the exam, and so you have to give that up, or maybe you can't hang out, or I don't know. I used to surf. I still do, not as much as before, but you know, I had to give up days where the swell was so good and I couldn't go surfing because I had to study. And so, yeah, that's what commitment requires. It's something that you give in order to for a cause or an activity that's important to you. And so that's the first C. The second C, consistency. And the dictionary explains that it's the conformity and the application of something. And synonyms for that is regularity, equilibrium, and stability. I was thinking back on maybe 2 weeks ago, you guys had a Nandini here give a really awesome talk on balance and how she threw a curveball and she was like, yeah, it's actually, you know, I'm going to explain why it can be balanced, like how spiritual life actually requires your all. And then I was thinking that through consistency in your spiritual practice, again, mantra meditation and consistent reading, regular reading of spiritual texts, or hearing, you know, kind of like classes like this, coming together, doing kirtan together, how when you do that on a regular basis, that actually gives you stability and equilibrium. Something that we often think we're going to find if we put a little more energy maybe in our material arrangement. Maybe if we get another job, maybe if we get, you know, maybe a nicer looking girlfriend or boyfriend, or better clothes or anything like that, that actually doesn't yield any durable results. So I thought that was pretty interesting because we actually achieve balance in life when we are consistent in our spiritual practice. And it just dawned on me this week when I was thinking about it, how that's actually the only balance we can find here in this life, is when you consistently and with commitment, you engage in a spiritual practice. That's the only way you're ever going to feel stable. That's the only way that everything material will fall into place, as long as your attention is focused on your spiritual life. And that brings us to our third C, which is care. And the dictionary explains that it's a serious attention or consideration applied to doing something correctly to avoid damage or risk. I thought, you know, we use this word care just so loosely for anything. You know, hey, take care, or I'm going to take care of my cat, or I'm going to do this. But actually, like, it means that you pay serious attention to doing something correctly to avoid damage or risk. That was amazing. I was like, oh my gosh, what do I do in my life that's actually careful? Very few things, if I really think about it. And so when I was thinking about this third C in my spiritual life, yeah, that's what it means to have a serious practice, is that every time I'm going to dedicate, again, commitment, the commitment part, some time and energy and resources to connecting with the divine, I'm going to do it with attention, and I'm going to do it with the little risk possible of damaging that relationship. And that's going to require some focus and some dedication and some consistency, like I explained previously. And so it's actually a very personal activity that we can do. Probably the most personal activity we'll do in a day. If you guys think about it, when we wake up in the morning, I mean, we already have a to-do list, or maybe just the day before, we start thinking about what we need to do tomorrow, or the next day, or this week, or this month. We have so many things to get done. And a lot of times we think, well, how can I arrange things materially so I can benefit the most? But again, without having an anchor, this anchor of a steady practice, of a steady daily practice, we cannot really achieve anything or much. And we're actually meant, one of my main teachers told me this once, and it really stuck with me. And he said to me, I want you to be the quality person you were meant to be. And I was like, whoa, nobody had ever told me that. You know, I hear so much, like, from my parents and friends, like, I love you, you know, see you, I care about you. But this person, and I had just met him, and he's, 40, 50 years practicing bhakti yoga, or mantra meditation. When he told me this, and he actually meant it, like he knows that by this practice, by the commitment, by being committed, consistent, and careful in this practice, I was going to be able to become that quality person that I was meant to be. That's my essence, is to be happy and to actually be good at everything and anything that I material and obviously spiritual, because I'm a spiritual being, right? And so this doesn't happen on our own. You know, a lot of times I have thought that my spiritual practice depends on me. Like if I don't wake up early, or if I don't wake up at all during the day, or whatever, if my feelings are off, then maybe I could just do it tomorrow. Maybe just not today. Or maybe I'm sick today, or maybe, you know, whatever. So many things have happened in my span of practicing bhakti yoga. Now it's been about 10 years. That there were days where I was like, you know, I'm just not in the right mindset. Maybe another time, maybe whatever. But what kept me showing up was the fact that I wasn't doing this alone. This isn't a one-man show, you know. I'm making the commitment to show up, but it's actually a community effort. And there's people, especially my teachers, that have given me this gift of this wonderful mantra. And these books that have been written and translated with so much love and wisdom that, you know, it's been given to me as a gift. And so it's not only because I don't feel good or I just don't feel like it. It's a commitment that I have to keep also to my community, and they hold me accountable. And I think while we are connecting and making this net that I was telling you about, like the trees up north, community holds a very special place, you know, and it's really important what you guys are doing here in Mantra House. You come every Thursday, you know. For a lot of you, maybe for all of you, this is like when you connect, and it's probably the only time you get to really meditate and maybe feel grateful or happy or whatever. Maybe for some of you that have a more developed spiritual life, it's a very important night, and also a night that you get to give back. But nonetheless is important. So where I'm getting at is that your spiritual life is not just yourself. Your community. By you coming here, like, people get to know each other. You know, when you don't come, you are missed. And maybe, you know, it's the holidays, not everybody's here. But they're missed. It's not the same. The energy is a little less because it's more of an empty house and things like that. So you matter. You matter in so many ways. So if we feel like this, and you know, we're just barely getting to know each other, I guess, I would say that this is probably where you can be the most real, if you think about it. But even at this level, what's to speak of the divine or that supreme person, you know, where we all come from? That connection is way stronger. And so when we have a spiritual practice, we get to connect with that being daily, and it's at your fingertips. It's quite easy. And that's what real gifts are about, just that connection that makes you feel stable and not only happy but grateful, and you're able to share it with other people. And so the other thing is that, so community, you're being held accountable, but also your teachers, the people, the pros, I like to call them, when we have a goal in mind, and I think maybe all of you can relate, is that when we find something that we like or we feel interested in, we want to find out more about it, right? Maybe we get some books on it, I don't know, maybe basketball. You want to get good at basketball, or painting. We have an artist in the house. And so maybe these talents are natural, but they're just not fully developed yet. So what do? Maybe you watch videos on YouTube, you buy books, you try to hook up with other artists that are great at what they do and that you can learn something from them, You start investing some time, investing some energy into finding out how you can develop your practice, whatever it is. So similarly, we do that with our spiritual practice. We find the people that are really talented and really good at what they're doing because they also started like we are starting at some point. And through practice, practice makes perfect. Through commitment, through consistency and care, they are where they are now. And we're able to see their example and see their quality of life. And we are inspired by that naturally. I can think of so many people. A lot of you are here, and I feel so inspired by your example daily. So when we do that, when we find these people, this is actually very essential for anything, but especially for your spiritual life, is finding people that have already developed a strong spiritual practice, one that they're committed to, one that they're consistent in, and that they're careful in executing. And you find these people, and you attach yourself to them. You make a connection, you make a relationship. And with humility, wow, that's a scary word, right? It's something that I feel uncomfortable about for so many years, and I'm just barely trying to tap into that through my spiritual practice. It doesn't mean I'm less than. It just means that I respect those that have given me something that I couldn't have gotten on my own. And it's okay to recognize that. It's actually very valuable. And so it's finding those people and really, with humility, asking them questions about this spiritual practice, this spiritual life. How can I improve? How can I be the quality person that I was meant to be? And these people, they're not regular, like whatever people. These are jewels. And we can see that even amongst ourselves. The labor of love that, for example, Atulia and her helpers are doing in the kitchen, cooking for all of us every Thursday night. All the staff here, that's all service that comes from gratitude. When you have received something that you can't repay with anything material, then you offer your love and your service, in whatever way and capacity you can. So these are all fruits of that spiritual practice that will come. And it is real because we see it among the pros. They're getting that and they're passing that out freely. So I thought that was something that, I wanted to share because it has really made my life so rich and so meaningful. And so when do we do this practice? So if you don't yet have established practice, a consistent practice, if you still are on the fence about how committed do I want to be in this whole thing, then, you start where you're at. That's really the only place where we can start, is where we're at. And so if coming here on a Thursday night, it's all you can do for your spiritual life, it's amazing. There's only just a few of us here. Everybody else is off doing something else, so it's so rare, So that's considered a practice, a spiritual practice. That could be your starting point. So all of you at least have that. If you want to go a little deeper, then we have, this is what I love about spiritual life. It's like, this is the best thing you can do, and then there's like a hierarchy of things. If you can't do that, then you do this. If you can't do that, then you do this, like that. And then by the help of your community, then you're progressing, you're moving forward, and you're improving. So the best thing it said, it's the hours of the morning time. Why? Because in the morning time, everything is still peaceful. Maybe, around 3:30, 4, 5 in the morning, most people are still sleeping. Your parents are still sleeping. They're not going to be calling you, telling you to do anything, chores, whatever. Work hasn't started. School hasn't started yet. So during those hours, it's really easy for the mind to connect, to focus on something, actually anything, but mainly spiritual life. So if that's something that you can do, then yeah, the early morning hours are great for spiritual practice. Also, maybe looking for a place or accommodating a place where you can call that your sacred space. I don't know. That's what we call it in the yoga studios. So yeah, like a space where you can do your meditation. Maybe you journal there, or you have a picture of somebody special where you can do your spiritual practice. And do that where you can get some alone time, without many distractions. Maybe not have your phone with you, your computer or your TV close by. So carefully arranging spaces and times so you can focus on that thing, which will set the scene for the rest of your day, right? And if you can't do that, then you just at least make a commitment that by the end of the day, before you go to bed, you will have done a certain amount of mantras. We have prescribed rounds, how we call them, And it's just the same thing as if we're going to the doctor or, whatever. We go to the gym if you want to lose weight. We have our personal trainer, and our personal trainer tells us, you do 50 push-ups a day, 20 squats, a shake, whatever, that. So you're not going to do 2 squats and expect the same results, right? You're not going to do 10 push-ups and then expect that you're ready for a bodybuilding competition. It requires you to follow, for you to follow the prescribed amount of exercises or medication if we're going with the example of the doctor. You have to take 300 milligrams of whatever. You're not going to take a 100 and expect the same results. So similarly in spiritual life, we have numbers of mantras that we chant. And that's just to regulate the mind and to allow us to practice that control. That's the whole point of spiritual life too. To control our senses, our mind, in a regulated way, so we can really connect. We're so distracted a lot of times. And so, by doing this, you're able to reap the best benefit, the most benefit. So then, keeping track of the rounds, but wherever you're at, maybe you start with just one, but at least you're committed to that, and then you build from that. The most important thing is to never go down. So for example, I was saying, if you don't have a spiritual practice, this is a general, guideline of where you can start. But if you already have a spiritual practice and you want to know how you can up your game, maybe you're doing the quantity part of it, but your quality is not really where you want it to be. Maybe there's more attention that you can give it. Maybe there's more care that you can do for that hour, 2 hours, 10 minutes of your meditation. And go from where we have committed and then try to build that. Progressive, little by little. We don't want to go all out and then next week burn out and then drop it. Be like, this isn't for me, this is no, it's for everybody. But we also have to be very aware of our limits, or our stamina. I'm not going to go run a marathon if I haven't been to the gym in a year. I need to start little by little before I can get into the big stuff, And so I think that's one of the biggest secrets for success in a spiritual practice is knowing what you can do And every time, maybe daring to push a little harder. Because we're so accustomed to thinking that what feels good is what we should be doing. And that's not the case a lot of times, you know. I definitely feel this way sometimes. It's like I don't really feel like this. Well, I still have to get up and go to work, and I still have to get up and, you know, finish my meditation and my reading and things like that. And there's a value to this, that it may not always feel good, but that doesn't mean it's wrong. You know, it's definitely controversial, and it's contrary to what we hear and learn from our our society nowadays. That if it doesn't feel good for your body and mind, then you shouldn't be doing it. It requires work and sacrifice, and at the same time, it will help you become better at what you want to become better at, you know? So anything we put our attention to, everything that we are committed and consistent and careful about, will grow. And maybe you've heard of this law of attraction. That whatever we think, our positive attitude, our positive words, things like that. So why not focus on the most important thing that we can do, which is our spiritual practice? How come we put so much emphasis on maybe being so positive about our work, school, appearances, shoes, whatever, but not our spiritual practice? That's actually essential, you know? And so I just wanted to give you, I guess, a peek into what my life has been like when I have put into practice these guidelines that my teachers have shared with me. And really, at a certain point, this sacrifice that was, you know, a little hard to get over at the beginning has now become the fuel for my practice. What do I mean by that? Maybe at the beginning, not maybe, for sure at the beginning it was hard. You know, it was like I felt like I was going crazy when I would just try to meditate and say this mantra. My mind was like, oh my gosh, it's the same words. Well, how come I can't say other things? Like, you know, and yeah, we can meditate on so many things. But I know that there's a reason why this is a process, like an experiment, you know, and it was there for me to tap into. So I did that. I was like, okay, before I commit to this, I need to just try it out. Because it's like any product that we get, right? It's like you want your hair to look a certain way, well, you try it out. If you like it, then you go all out and buy all the products of their line or whatever. Same thing with spiritual life. It's okay. You need to use your intelligence and you need to try it out first. And guess what? The process works. For a lot of, actually everybody that tries it out, it works. But that's not the X factor. We are. So we need to be aware of that if we are going to connect, if we are going to maybe commit to this process, then we're going to have to commit in the best way possible. We're going to show up for this practice, whether we like it or not. We're going to, whether we feel good or not, maybe for whatever reason, it's not the best day of our lives, and we're still going to show up and connect with care and attention. And some days are better than others. That's how it was for me for a long time, even now. There's some days that, you know, I'm feeling physically exhausted. Somebody has died in my family, getting a car accident, tickets, whatever it is. But this practice has become an anchor. So it doesn't matter where your life takes you or how rough the winds are, how big the waves are, and how crazy you got thrown under the water. You're still connected and you know where you're going. And I think that's the biggest thing in having a consistent, committed, and a careful practice, is that no matter what happens, you're always going to know what your goal is and how to get there. And now it's up to you to make it happen. Also having in mind that it's not just up to you, it's also part of a community effort. So another thing that I really have just been loving about this is the fact that I always wondered, well, what am I supposed to do in life? You know, how do I know what, like, my purpose in existence is? I want to check the time, make sure I'm still there. I'm running a little behind. But just to wrap it up, this practice allows you to really get some clarity and tap into what you're supposed to be doing. Little by little, everything around you will start falling into place, and you're gonna see a transformation that it doesn't compare to anything else you do. And those around you will let you know, this is what happened in my life. And my family members were like, whoa, what are you doing? What are you taking? Who are you hanging out with? And so little by little, you know, your own experience is like the best testimony for these things, you know? And nobody's paying you for this. You're not getting anything but that satisfaction that's coming from your own spiritual practice. So I want to leave you with this. Now that the new year is approaching, I invite each and every one of you to give this a try as a New Year's resolution. Definitely mine for next year is to do a little more attentive mantra meditation, up my game on the quality side. And I can't wait to hear about your, the benefits that you get from this, maybe into the new year. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak.